This is Mr. Lila Bubba, and welcome to another installment of Pokemon Competitive Bios. This week's Pokemon is Gliscor. Gliscor, originating from Generation 4, is a combination ground and flying type, and is currently in the OU tier. Now in this video I am going to be running through Gliscor's stats, its move pool, abilities, typing, and counters, giving them all letter grades, and then giving it an overall letter grade for its usability at the end of the video. So beginning right away with Gliscor's stats. I chose to give Gliscor an A for its stats because it has great defense, and its speed and attack are there to back it up, so it's not just defensive, and it's not just sweeping. It does have a lot of bulk, but it is pretty fast. It's fast enough to outspeed plenty of things in OU, and it is also a very good defensive Pokemon if you use it right, so that is why I chose to give Gliscor the grade of an A in the stat department. Moving on to Gliscor's move pool. Gliscor I chose to give actually an A+, and even though it only gets really hard-hitting stab moves from Earthquake and Acrobatics, those two moves are some of the most powerful physical ground and flying type moves that are available to any Pokemon, so Gliscor having those two is very good for it, and it also gets type coverage from some weaker moves like Thunderfang and Firefang. But it also gets things like Sky Uppercut, Rock Slide, and Brick Break to help cover weaknesses to ice types. And along with that, it also gets a very diverse move pool. It gets things like X-Scissor and Aqua Tail, and its setup moves are very good as well, getting things like Screech, Taunt, Swords Dance, and even Rock Polish. So it has ways to cover weaknesses, and it also has a lot of diversity to its move pool, both offensively and defensively. So overall, just a great move pool for Gliscor. That's why I chose to give it an A+. On to abilities, and when it comes to abilities, Gliscor gets 3. Those 3 are Hyper Cutter, Sand Veil, and Poison Heal. Now, the grade I chose to give Gliscor is the same as its move pool, and that is another A+. And the reason for this is not necessarily because of Hyper Cutter. Hyper Cutter makes it so that Gliscor's attack cannot be lowered. That can be usable, but it's not a very good ability to use in the metagame. Maybe in-game that could be helpful, but in competitive play, Hyper Cutter is usually something that people stay away from. Sand Veil is usually banned, but it's very useful for walling. So if you are in a match that's not where Sand Veil is not banned, that can be a very good ability, but again, most of the time, Sand Veil, by the way, raises evasion in a sandstorm, so that is typically why it is banned, but it is a very good ability when you are trying to wall, and its last ability is probably what makes its ability grade so good, and that is Poison Heal. Poison Heal heals 12.5% of your total HP. That is 1/8 of your total HP between every turn when the Pokemon is poisoned. It doesn't matter if they are badly poisoned or poisoned, you still heal 12.5%. So if you have something like the Toxic Orb on a Gliscor, you can heal twice as much HP between each turn as you would with the leftovers. So Poison Heal is a very, very good ability, especially for a Pokemon like Gliscor. So all these combined, it's mostly Sand Veil and Poison Heal that are the reason that this grade was so good. Hyper Cutter, again, it's not a hindering ability, and that's why it doesn't really lower the grade, but Poison Heal is the big focal point here. Sand Veil, again, also really good, but it's usually banned, and that's why it's not too good. So on to typing. Gliscor, of course, as I said at the beginning, is a ground and flying type, and the grade I chose to give this typing is an A-. Now, it gets a good grade because it only has 2 weaknesses, and those are to water and ice types. But the only problem there, and the reason that its grade kind of dips, is that it is 4 times weak to ice instead of 2 times weak, being both ground and flying. And on top of that, rain is a very common thing in the OU tier, so that weakness to water is very, very bad, especially because things like Politoed and Keldeo are very, very common, and Choice Specs Politoed is becoming much more common than it has been in the past. So again, being weak to water is really, really not good for Gliscor, and that is why its typing grade is pretty much the low point of its grades. But again, an A- is not bad in the slightest, so a good typing grade for Gliscor, but not a perfect one. So on to counters, and in this department I gave Gliscor an A-. Now, again, there are some real gaping holes in the counters area for Gliscor. Bronzong can wall it completely, well, it can wall most sets completely. Because typically you'd see a Gliscor trying to Toxic, and its attacking move would usually be Earthquake, but because Bronzong can have Levitate, that basically gets rid of the chance to EQ, and it is immune to Toxic because of being a poison, or because of being a Steel type. So that is why Bronzong is a very good counter to Gliscor. Bulky water types can also counter because they can break subs easily, because Gliscor's special defense isn't the best. But they do have to be aware of Toxic because it can really hinder them. So that is a thing in Gliscor's favor. And fast special attackers can easily switch into Gliscor if Gliscor's not behind a sub, because they can easily knock it out before it can get behind a sub or force it to switch out. So that is why Gliscor sort of gets a dipped grade in the counters department. And just to run through some of the common counters that you'd see to Gliscor, would typically be things like Bronzong, as I've already mentioned. Skarmory is also a big one, and then things maybe like Landorus could be a counter to a Gliscor, and also bulky water types. Those would be like Slowking, Politoed, Gastrodon, that type of thing. So that is the grade I chose to give Gliscor's counters. And that moves us on to the final grade to give Gliscor, and that is an overall grade. Now, this is the first time I've ever given a Pokemon in my competitive bios this grade, but I believe Gliscor is the first one to really deserve it, and that is an A+ in the overall department. Gliscor is really, really good. In my opinion, it shouldn't really be OU. It should be Ubers. That is my opinion. Personally, I use it a lot because I love Gliscor and it's very good. I love its design and all that stuff, but we won't get into that. But again, Gliscor has great stats. I mean, it's not just fast and having a lot of defense, but it also has a good attack stat. So if you use things like there are attacking sets that you can run on Gliscor, there are defensive sets you can run on Gliscor. It's a very diverse Pokemon. It's a very good one to use. And speaking of diversity, its move pool comes hand in hand with that. Just lots of setup moves that'll help it both offensively and defensively, and just its overall attacking moves are very, very diverse. Its abilities are great, especially Poison Heal. I can't stress that enough. That's a very, very good ability. Its typing is solid. It's not the best, but its typing is pretty good. And its counters, they can be very bad, especially things like Skarmory and Bronzong that can wall it completely, or even Gengar can wall it completely. But they can be handled depending on the set. You know, if you're running only Toxic and Earthquake, then those three Pokemon can easily run all over Gliscor. But things like the Acrobat set, these are just, I'm mentioning a lot of common sets that you could see on things like Smogon, but yeah, there are a lot of different sets that you can run on Gliscor that makes countering it very difficult, because Gliscor is one of those Pokemon where you don't really know for sure what type of set it is until you see a couple moves in, because I believe almost all of them are going to want to get behind a sub and let their Toxic Orb activate. But then, depending on what they want to do, you don't know if they want to Swords Dance, so you don't know if you want to switch into an Intimidate Pokemon, or if they're going to Toxic, or if they're going to Earthquake, or if they're going to stall you out. So Gliscor is a very, very usable Pokemon. It's very, very diverse, and I highly, highly recommend it. This is probably the best Pokemon, competitively anyway, that I have done a bio on, in my opinion, so far. And that is why I chose to give Gliscor an A+ in the overall grade. It's a very good Pokemon. Can't stress it enough. It's very, very good. And now it's time for the part of the video that I like to call Mr. Lilabubba Suggests. This is where I suggest a set that you could run on the Pokemon featured in the video to be successful in competitive play. This week's, of course, is Gliscor. Now, the set that I have chosen this week is not very uncommon in the slightest. This is a very, very common Gliscor set. A lot of people run it. It's very popular in OU, and that is the Sub-Toxic Orb Poison Heal set. Now, this is going to be focused on defensive walling and just in general stalling. So one thing to note about this set before I begin explaining it is that special attackers are going to give this Gliscor set a lot of problems, and also the counters that we talked about before, especially in particular Bronzong and Skarmory, are all going to give this Gliscor set a lot of problems. But let's go ahead and begin explaining it, and I will begin with the EVs. The EVs you're going to want to put into this set are 252 into HP, 184 into defense, and 72 into speed. This is going to allow you to do a lot of defensive walling, but at the same time you're also going to have a little bit of speed investment in order to outspeed things so that you can sub faster than they can hit you with moves, and that way you can sub-stall them out of moves that could do a lot of damage to you. And the nature, you're going to want Impish. What that's going to do is that it is going to lower your special attack. Of course, you're not going to need that, and it's going to raise your defense. So once again, just helping with physical stalling. The ability, of course, Poison Heal, that is going to heal basically double leftovers every single turn, as long as you are poisoned, and that leads into the item, and that's going to be the Toxic Orb that is going to activate after one turn, and that is going to allow you to be toxic. That is going to help you in multiple departments. First of all, you're not going to be able to be given another status, so you can't be put to sleep, you can't be paralyzed, and you cannot be burned. You're going to keep that toxic status and of course heal because of it, so that's going to be very good for you. And just as well, it's time to move on to the moveset. The moveset is it's very basic here, just Substitute and Protect, of course, for sub-stalling. And then I chose Toxic here to give statuses that is going to speed up the process of walling. That's going to allow you to wear things down while you're walling them, as opposed to having two attacking moves. And Earthquake is also going to be your attacking move. This can be switched out for Facade, let that be noted, but I prefer Earthquake. It gets stab boost, so that even after the boost from being poisoned, Earthquake is still going to do more to neutrally affected opponents than Facade. And of course, let me go back to Toxic. That can be switched out for Taunt or Ice Fang. I wouldn't really suggest Ice Fang. I wouldn't suggest having two attacking moves on the set, because you don't really need two attacking moves, and you really need some sort of other setup move, especially Toxic. I'd highly recommend Toxic. That's why I chose to feature it, but Taunt is also usable. But I think that's more of a situational thing. I would stick with Toxic. And how you're going to use this set is, it's very basic, but at the same time it requires a lot of strategy. I know that sounds very strange, but let me explain that a bit more. Usually, depending on what your opponent leads with, this Gliscor could make a good lead, or it could make a good switch in, because it can switch into a lot of things because of not being weak to many types, and also having just a lot of physical bulk and resisting a lot of things. So what you're going to want to do is either Protect on the first turn in to allow your Toxic Orb to activate, or if you know that your opponent's going to switch out, Sub would also be a good thing, because then you'll get behind a Substitute basically for free, and your Toxic Orb will also activate. And the Poison Heal is going to heal 12.5 between each turn, so even using Sub, after one turn you're going to be healed 12.5, and if you use Protect on the next turn, you're going to get all that HP back, so 2 turns later you can be back at full HP even after using Substitute. So just a great way to wall here. So you can PP stall a lot of things. Like Hydro Pump only has 8 PP, so even if someone's trying to spam you with Hydro Pump, you can stall them out of it, unless of course they're faster than you. And then Toxic is very self-explanatory. I wouldn't use it until you're behind a sub, but that's completely up to you. And then EQ, also very self-explanatory. That's just going to allow you to do some sort of damage in case you're trapped as the last Pokemon in, or if you have no way to deal damage by other means other than Toxic. So that is basically all there is to say about this Gliscor set. And go ahead and try it out and tell me how it works out. It should work pretty well as long as you use it right. It is a very common set. You can find this set on Smogon because it is just so widely used, but I wouldn't be suggesting it if it didn't work. It's a very good set for a very good Pokemon. And that is going to conclude this episode of Pokemon Competitive Bios. Please remember to leave a like, rating, comment on this video, and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video, and also share it with your friends. That's going to allow my channel to grow, and it will allow others to see this video, especially if you found it helpful. So thank you for watching, guys. Peace out.